Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session called Choosing Your Bank and What You Need to Open an Account. And I'm joined by Tusani Hudson from Tide Banking. So I'm going to hand it over to Tusani to take us into her presentation, and I will see you all later. Bye, Tusani.
Thanks, Sabrina. Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here. Super thrilled that I get to talk to you guys about choosing a proper banking solution for your new business or small to medium-sized business. I know that you've had some excellent speakers already, so I'm hoping to keep up the momentum and explain to you guys exactly what considerations you might want to think about when getting started with a business account. So I use the word banking, and actually I work for Tide, which is actually not a bank, but we provide a number of banking solutions and small business services. Tide is a business account that attempts to provide a wide range of services you might need as a new business or as a small to medium-sized enterprise. And this is something that you could probably consider as an opportunity for your business because Tide is able to work directly for small businesses. Unlike high street banks, we actually don't work with any of the personal or individual customers. We only work for businesses, and we're always thinking about how to solve businesses' problems. My role at Tide is actually to help new customers. So I help with getting customers set up, understanding why they might need to create an account or how to create an account, and also making that flow as simple as possible. But beyond just Tide, I kind of wanted to talk today about what you might want to consider when choosing a solution provider that works for you. All of the little pitfalls and features you might be looking for. And of course, we'll have some time to talk about any questions that you might have as well. So jumping right into it, I think the first question that you might want to ask yourself is whether or not you actually need a business account. The first thing is that if you're a registered business, so that means you're a business listed with Companies House, you will need a business account because it is expected by Companies House that you maintain finances that are separate from you as an individual. So you have the individual, which is you, and then you have the registered business, which is your business. So these must be kept separate. The second thing is that if you're a sole trader, you might still want a business account. And we can go into the reasons why that might be. But you might also want to know and look at the T's and C's of, let's say, your personal HSBC or banking account to see if you're able to actually do business banking with your personal account. If you actually look at the small details, some banks actually don't like you doing business activity from a personal account, and this will vary from bank to bank. If we think about it, a lot of it just comes down to the banks wanting to protect themselves. So they won't necessarily enforce it, but it technically does exist in their terms and conditions. So the reason why you might want a business account is to keep expenses separate because it can be difficult to, remember whether a trip to a store was for a personal expense or for a business expense. And by keeping them separate, you might find it easier in reporting. Another reason why you might want a business account is to build a credit rating for your business. So as a business, if you have a business account, you're actually able to say that you've been able to pay bills, you have a set of transactions that have gone through a dedicated business account, and that can help show to potential lenders that you have a history that is consistent, it shows that you actually exist, and might become useful as you try and grow your business to be able to access loans and other credit products. And I think one of the big things that we don't think about when you're a smaller business or when you have very few transactions going through is taking advantage of some really cool business features. And I can talk a little bit about this later. And then the last reason why you might want a business account is just a bit professional. So with the business account, you might be able to get vendors to extend credit to you to take on slightly riskier transactions because they think that you're more credible. But on the flip side, there might be reasons why you might hold off on having a business account right away. One thing to think about is potential fees. So you'll want to look at the other providers and kind of compare and contrast to think about where the fees are and what you might be doing that could incur fees and trying to pick the option that is best for your situation at the current time. And then I know that I just said that business accounts could help you take advantage of business features and to keep expenses separate. cleaning up the admin a little bit. Ultimately, another account could equal to more admin for you. So if right now you have a personal account where you're doing your business activity from and it's working for you, you might want to think about whether or not it's worth the headache of having a second account and balance that against the pro list. So when you're thinking about a business account, you want to make sure that the business account is able to provide the features that you might be looking for, but also think about how your business will grow and whether you'll need some of the features in the future. So some of the features to look out for that are common in business accounts, or at least in a strong business account, would be things like accounting software. So you'll want to think about what accounting software you're using or you're thinking about using, and look for a business account that's able to integrate with it quickly. Obviously, for most of you at least, accounting isn't the reason why you're doing your business. You have accounting as a result of admin surrounding your business. So you want to make that part of your life as easy as possible. So if you can find a business account that has admin products, and such as accounting services, that would definitely be a big plus in my opinion. Another feature that could be quite handy is auto categorization. So that'll help you as a business owner identify where you're spending money, where you're getting money, and that could actually help you analyze your business and help it grow further. And then there's things like receipts, invoices, invoice chasing. In a survey that we ran, actually, I think about 40% of customers actually said that they have to chase each individual bill that is owed to them, which to me is just crazy. A lot of software can actually chase for you automatically. So you'll actually notice that a bill hasn't paid. They'll send out a reminder email to try and get that bill paid without you having to step in. So that could save you a lot of time. And it could also save you money, because if the chasing works, obviously that means your bills are paid a little bit faster. Also think about how this business product and the business account could grow with your business. So even if you don't have team members now, or you don't have payroll now, you might want to select a provider that's able to run payroll for you or support you in payroll, and also support having other team members having access to your account. So think about where you are now, but also where you'll be in 2 years, because moving accounts can be a little bit tricky. So if you can select the right account for you upfront, that might save you a little bit of time in the future. Also, in line with growing your business, you'll want to think about some credit services, business loans. Is your provider able to provide you with the finance you might need in the future if you find a really good opportunity and a reason to access capital? And then lastly, you want to think about the functionality. I know this sounds really obvious, but you want to be able to trust your banking provider and your business account provider, because there are going to be some applications that are just not intuitive, a little bit confusing. We've all had, that application where the button just won't click, or the thing just goes down just as you need it. So you want to make sure that the functionality is there. Play around with the website and the application if you can, to see what others think of it. Ask your friends for recommendations. You want to make sure that the core things that you're doing are always available, and they're also intuitive and not just a headache for you to deal with. Some of the common things that you might want to think about are whether or not you could take card payments, whether or not cash deposits are possible, and if they have a mobile application, because nowadays it's not just enough to be on your computer. You might need to actually check your account information while you're on the bus, something like that. So in terms of applying for a business account, if you don't actually have one yet, the majority of providers will ask you for some information about yourself. So it's things like name, address, birth date, and ID. These are to verify that you are who you say you are and that you are the owner of a business. With Tide, we ask for, we think, a pretty minimal amount of information, because we're able to accurately identify people with some of the newer technology that maybe the high street banks wouldn't have. So with the high street bank, you can be asked to verify in person, but with Tide or some of the newer technologies, you'd actually be able to verify your ID through the application without actually having to meet anyone in person, which can be pretty cool, and also kind of appreciated in the pandemic era that we live in now. You'll also have to provide information about your business. So things like your business name, your category, who else might be a listed director with you, and where your business is located. And then sometimes you'll have to have further documentation. So if your business is quite new, or if there's difficulty in the system identifying who you are, some proof of business, proof of who you say you are, which can complicate the process a little bit more. But hopefully, if you've chosen a good business provider, they'll be able to kind of hold you through the process and make sure that it's going to be as fast as possible, because often we're setting up these accounts right as their business is really, really growing. So we want to get things done as fast as possible. One thing that I did want to mention that's a little bit unrelated is just thinking about registering your company at the same time you get a business account. So we offer a service. Actually, this is a service that many people do use even outside of Tide when they are getting a current account, is to register their company as well. So in the UK, registration is handled by a body called Companies House. And with incorporation, you're listed on Companies House as a registered business with a certificate of incorporation. Incorporating your business makes you legally distinct from yourself as an individual, which could be helpful for tax and liability purposes. This is probably something you'll want to do a bit more research in, but it is a great opportunity for you to be able to manage these two things at once. So while you're setting up the current account, to also just register a business and get that off your list if that's something you're interested in. So that was a really quick 10 minutes, I think. And I want to really open the floor up for any questions that you might have about Tide, about creating a business, what you might need, any questions you might have.
Hi there, Tusani. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. That was a lot of great information. And we do have a question already in the chat. So we have a question from Kay. And her question is, will the registration of the business be free if I open a Tide account?
Great question. So actually, Tide's service is completely free. So we'll actually register the company with Companies House for you and cover the incorporation fee.
Fantastic. That is great. And that's a great value add as well if you go with Tide. Now, we had a wonderful speaker on before this, and he did ask the question about international payments. Now, I know that Tide is UK based at the moment, so it's all transactions that are limited to the UK. But what if you did have to make payments or receive payments internationally? Would you be able to give us a little bit of advice on that if we did go with Tide?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Most of our members are using third-party services right now to get international payments through, and that is a great option. But I'm really excited to say that we are just about to release Swift payments, so that'll allow customers to transact payments internationally. So hopefully we'll have that soon. But until then, using a third-party service like PayPal or TransferWise or Wise nowadays, that's totally an option.
Fantastic. And that's brilliant. And really, really good information. And Adiyam was the one that asked that question.
Okay, great.
So she's like, thank you. I'm not sure if I should ask it again. So I thought it would be relevant to ask it again. So so that's your answer. And I think it's a great one. And it's super exciting that Tide is moving in that direction and will be able to help you and any business with that particular need. So a question that I had for you, Tusani, is what is the kind of the top number one question that you get asked from, say a business that has a profile like a start business or a new business?
I think the question that always gets asked is whether or not that they actually need the business account right away. And I would say that sometimes it's actually easier to think about setting that up earlier in the journey. So sometimes people will try and set up a business account just as they're getting that first huge payment. And that can be a little bit stressful. But if you know that you're onto something and that your business is growing, perhaps get that out of the way so that way you're ready for when those big payments start coming through.
Fantastic. Great advice. And we have another question from Kay. Is there a running cost to maintaining a Tide business account?
Great question. So Tide is free. We have a standard plan that has no monthly cost whatsoever. Transfers between accounts do cost 20p, but the account itself and any deposits held are free.
Got it. And I guess this is a question for more tangible things. So do you get a card? Do you have to pay to get a card? What is it? How does it work? Do you have to pay to get multiple cards?
Yeah, so our cards are free. So when you register, after we've approved your account, we'll actually mail you a card, and you can get started with that as soon as you receive it. We also have some team cards, which allow you to give out extra cards to team members or employees who might have to run business expenses through the Tide account.
Got it. Fantastic. And so on that point, I know that you did talk about there being an app, obviously, for the Tide banking. So if you are in that scenario where you're a small business and you have a few different cards for members, are you able to control all of that on the one app? And
yeah, great question. So definitely, you can also freeze the cards. So, if someone loses them, if the employee shouldn't have access to the card anymore, you can manage all of that as well.
Fantastic. All right. We have a question from Leanne, and she says, in terms of accounts, is it okay to just use a standard account as a business account?
Yes. So if you're a sole trader, that's totally up to you. If your personal account is working for you, keep going for it. If you're an incorporated company, it is highly advised that you have a separate account and that you have a business account.
Got it. Fantastic. Right. So we're going to wait around a little bit longer to see if anyone else has some additional questions. Now, if you have any specific questions to do with banking and get cards up, there we go. So Leanne has said, oh no, it's not a personal account. It's a separate account to my personal stuff.
Okay, so that's good that she's kept it separate. I think that's advisable always. I think in that case, yes, if it's working for her, she should go for it. But it might have limitations as compared to a business account, which can have the advanced features like auto categorization for business aspects, expense management, giving out receipts and chasing payments. So think about you need those features. But if you're happy with the personal account and it's working for you, you do you. Why not?
I love that. And I have a question as well in terms of community. So is there a certain resource or a community, when you sign up to Tide, where, if there's any questions or, like-minded professionals or people that have, businesses that have Tide cards and accounts, is there a space that you can go to? Is there a resource? Is there somewhere online that exists with Tide?
Yeah, so Tide does have a pretty significant knowledge space in an FAQ section, because we know that a lot of this admin stuff, around applying for a business registration, that it can be a little bit confusing. So we're trying to take that admin and difficulty out for our members as much as possible. If a customer is on one of our premium plans, they actually have a dedicated account manager who can help them out a little bit with some of these questions or concerns that they might have. But even users or members on the free account, they do have access to our member support team, so they could potentially ask some questions that they might have or concerns with the account at any time.
Fantastic. So we've got another question from Kay. In terms of integrating with financial systems, which systems does Tide integrate with?
So in terms of accounting systems, most of the major systems we will integrate with, so Cashflow, Free Agent, QuickBooks, those big guys. Kay, if you have a specific question about which system, I can try and remember if I remember, because there's so many of them and I'm not familiar with all of them. Yes, we would. Yeah.
SAP.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. So that's a yes, Kay. Leanne, what would you recommend if you have been declined for business accounts with other providers due to credit history?
Yeah. So not all of us business providers would decline due to credit history. Tide actually doesn't do a credit check when an application is processed. So if you have bad credit, you would still be eligible to get a Tide account.
Fantastic. Well, that's good to know. Brilliant. Fantastic. Does anyone else have any more questions? Now's your time to drop them in the live chat. And if not, then thank you so much to Sani for joining us today and for this very, very valuable session, Tide Banking. And we are going to end the session and move into the lounge. So if any of you want to meet with Tusani personally, pull up a chair, join her at a table, ask her questions that maybe you didn't feel like or were too shy to ask here in the chat. That does happen, and that's absolutely good and okay. So take the time to do that. And thank you again. And thank you to Sani for joining us. And we're going to sign off now and end the session. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.